met with the Manhattan DA multiple times, even providing them with documents. And listen to what she told CNN.
Will Allen Weisselberg flip on Trump?
Yes.
Attorneys for both Weisselberg and the Trump Organization have declined to comment. Trump, you'll be shocked to discover, claims the investigation is politically motivated, calling it an investigation in search of a crime. I'm joined now by MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissmann. He was the lead prosecutor for Special Counsel Robert Mueller's office and the former chief of the fraud section at the Department of Justice. Andrew, good evening to you. Let's talk first about the New York Attorney General's announcement that her investigation has shifted from a civil one to a criminal one. What would it take for that to happen, Andrew? What does that say about the strength of the evidence that her office and the Manhattan DA's office now have in their possession?
Well, what's interesting is that the New York Attorney General has limited criminal authority. That is, in other words, they primarily do civil cases. For them to transfer the case from essentially being partially civil to partially criminal means that they have run into probably one of two things: either a criminal tax fraud case, as to which the New York Attorney General has jurisdiction, or the Martin Act, which is a very broad statute that the New York Attorney General has authority to prosecute, which involves securities or real estate fraud. So that's sort of on the New York Attorney General side. And then what you heard also this week was that the New York Attorney General was sending some of her staff to assist the Manhattan District Attorney's case. So that suggests to me that there at least is some there, because you wouldn't be sending somebody over there unless they had something that they were bringing. In other words, some evidence that would be useful for the Manhattan District Attorney's office.
Andrew, we know that Allen Weisselberg's former daughter-in-law is cooperating with investigators. How damaging would it be for Trump if Weisselberg himself were to do the same? He knows where all the bodies are buried, so to speak.
Yeah, so, one thing that is probably good news for Trump is that the announcement this week that what the New York Attorney General is doing certainly increases the pressure on Weisselberg, but it makes it pretty clear he has not yet flipped. So there's been a lengthy investigation, and so far it seems to have come up short. However, the bad news is that he now is facing not one, but two criminal investigations in the New York Attorney General's office and in the Manhattan District Attorney's office. And I analogize that to he's now not playing Russian roulette with one bullet in the chamber, but two. So, if you are Allen Weisselberg, the pressure on him to cooperate has really gone up dramatically.
Andrew, a number of people who have been close to the former president over the years are saying that he'll try to flip and blame this on someone else. Have a listen to his former personal attorney, Michael Cohen.
Donald Trump never put his name on anything. He had, as you know, no email. He very rarely texted, if ever, unless he was tweeting. And so what he'll do is he's going to turn and say, it wasn't me. It was my CFO. He's the one that did it. He worked with my accountant. It wasn't me. He'll blame everyone. He'll blame Ivanka, Don Jr., Eric, the accountant, Weisselberg, Calamari, me. He'll blame anybody else other than to accept responsibility.
Andrew, Donald Trump may well throw his own kids under the bus. I wouldn't be surprised if he did that. But the question is, if you're prosecuting this case, would you go after anyone but Donald Trump? He's the big fish here, right? The biggest fish of all.
He is, but you obviously have to wait and see where the facts lead you. But one thing that is important for people to know is senior people are entitled to rely on accountants and lawyers if they were misled or led to believe that what they were doing was not criminal because their lawyers signed off on it. Not as part of the conspiracy, but legitimately signed off on it, or the accountant signed off on it. That is not blaming other people. That is actually a legitimate defense. If you're a criminal prosecutor, what you need to be able to show is either that the lawyers or accountants did not know the full set of facts, and so what they were signing off on was not actually the deal that the CEO understood, or that this was all part of one huge criminal conspiracy. But this is standard operating procedure for both CEOs who are trying to avoid responsibility and for prosecutors. And so going back to the beginning, it is really important for Weisselberg to cooperate because it's really necessary in order to pierce that defense. You need him to be telling you what happened.
Andrew, last question. We know that investigators are looking into whether the Trump Organization inflated the values of their properties for tax purposes. How do you see this playing out if it does go to trial? Are we talking actual jail time for a former president of the United States? Seems unlikely.
Well, you know, I think that the answer to that is that if there is to be a prosecution and if it turns out that he, like anyone else, you know, committed a fraud or a significant tax fraud, then he should suffer the same, you know, penalties that any other person would. I mean, this country is built on the notion that a president is not above the law. So it may seem unlikely because we haven't seen it before, but, you know, Trump has certainly broken the mold in all sorts of ways, and we'll see if this is one of them.
Very good point. Andrew Weissmann, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
This morning, Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger spoke out against Republican lies about the 2020 election and the subsequent insurrection.